for us, it's the most interesting part of the business. It's the most interesting part of the of what we do as an agency. I mean, it's great to extract a beautiful campaign and to see it everywhere in magazines, and to see your film on TV is always exciting, right? But the moment you actually find that positioning, that poetry of precision, or for Bali, for instance, the architect of leather, or whatever it is going to be, that moment where you craft this in 5 words, and then from this you extract the tagline, and then that's a beautiful moment for.
Fabrice, how long do you work on a campaign like that, from start to where you get a result in the end?
We can do a brand epic in 8 to 10 weeks, and that includes back and forth with the marketing team or the owners of the brand, because we don't want to impose our vision either. We want to express our vision the first time around. We want to make them cry or laugh or scream in horror or whatever it is. We want that to be really, But then that reaction, we want to take it home, and then we want to, because at the end of the day, they know the brand intimately, and we know the brand. We end up knowing the brand intimately as well, but we know it from the outside. So what's interesting is merging those 2 points of view, and so we usually have 2, sometimes 3 rounds of revision until we have a document that everybody feels comfortable with. And it takes that time. It takes 8 to 10 weeks. We work on it for 4 or 5 weeks, sometimes 6, and then we start going back and forth.
So is there a process that you go through? Do you ask them questions? Do you have a
Yeah.
How do you extract some of this information?
We go through a period of development in isolation, where we don't want to hear anyone tell us anything, and then we go into we find a way of isolating the sources of knowledge, which are not always the CEO or not always the marketing director. Sometimes it's somebody who's been working in the workshop for the longest, or is the head of the museum of the brand, when there is a museum, which is wonderful.
Can I interrupt for 1 second? Because I was a client of his, and the best thing ever that happened to us was when they did this exploration phase,
Yeah.
and came back with this book, how they saw our brand. And it was unbelievable, because it opened our eyes to areas we had not seen. And we're all so in our brands when you are in the corporate world. And what Selected was really showing us how they see our world our brand from the outside, including what consumers think. That was my favorite piece ever.
Yeah, it was a good moment.
It's so powerful because it opens up your. Sorry.
No, it's that too.
I think that's the most powerful point of building a brand, is looking at it from where it's being targeted to.
Yes.
But they didn't allow us to brief them on it. We were not talking to them about what we felt.
No, that's perfect.
That was brilliant.
That's awesome.
And then we take it in.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like we've been working on Bali. I was mentioning Bali before. We've been working on Bali in Switzerland for the past 6 months, and we did the brand epic for the first 3 months. Were dedicated to the brand epic. They have a museum. The brand exists in 1851, and they have had the great idea of gathering all the stuff that they have done around 1905, and since then they've kept that museum. And because it's in Zurich, it was not destroyed or dismantled during any war, and so it's fairly well. So we just asked to gain access to that museum, and it was fabulous what we found there. We found stuff that was so much more interesting than what you see in the Bali store today. And what we found was mostly that the expertise of the craft of leather, and all the things that you can do with leather, which kind of was lost. Today you ask anyone in this room what Bali stands for, they might tell you Switzerland. They probably will tell you the stripes. They won't be able to tell you why the red and white stripes. No one will tell you what it is, and I can tell you what it is. The inspiration is 2 trains crossing each other in a snowy landscape. 2 red trains in a snowy landscape. That's where it comes from, because in Switzerland the trains are red, and or some trains in that part of Switzerland are red, but they won't tell you leather, and that's a pity, because there was a time when Bali was the absolute authority on leather.